Hi all, Jin here, and I'm here with my How to Play Aerith and Wakka vid. As usual, in the pinned comments are timestamps for easy navigation, as well as a link to my full playlist for all the How to Play vids I've done. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to be able to make this video since I had yet to pull Aerith. Her previous two banners were triple EX banners and I had the other two always already. And this one, well, I was only going to invest tickets into it and cue my Fran pools PTSD. Some people already knew how nervous I was going into this banner. So I'm actually not exactly sure what I would have done if all my tickets failed me, but I probably would have had to skip her. But I did end up luck sacking Wakka first, who was a nice bonus but never my goal, and I was worried he would blitzball me from getting Aerith, but fortunately she did come home. So now I actually have both in hand. Let's go over Wakka quickly first. I'm a boring guy who plans his purples ahead of time, but Wakka, I'm currently tempted to purple due to the fact that he brings a lot of support to the party, and I definitely love my supports. So everyone already has a level 70, but he does come with a new rework now. He gets a Brave Plus just from being buffed. It also batteries the party based on own attack, as well as becomes 2 hits. His skill 1, Dark Attack, which blinds an enemy for 2 turns, is now 4 Brave hits and can overflow 120%. It also gets a whopping 5 additional uses for a total of 10. His skill 2, Great Daring, can now overflow 150% from his self battery, with the buff durations being 8 turns instead of 6. For those not familiar with Wakka's kit, those buffs are Max Brave 100%, Attack 120%, Defense 100%, and Speed 70%. They're all generic and all with a 90% chance to apply on himself. Now for his new EX ability, Attack Reels, which is a 3 Brave single target HP attack executed 4 times and batteries the allies a random amount based on his attack. The best you can get is 200% of his attack and the worst is 100%, and then otherwise somewhere in between. It also grants him the unique buff Captain's Order for 6 turns, which is actually quite amazing. It's essentially a buff that gives the party aura of iBrave up 30%, attack up 20%, max brave up 20%, and a brave regen of 40% iBrave. A quick review of his C65 and C70, it gives the party attack and max brave 10% up for 3 turns. His bloom makes that 5 turns with an additional use for a total of 2, so definitely get both. It's an amazing boost for 10 total turns. Now for his EX Plus, at 0-3 his EX ability gets 120% overflow and hits harder. At 1-3 he gets 40% attack and 60% max brave. At 2-3 he starts off with all his generic buffs and EX fully charged. At 3-3 he gets his HP Plus, which is a 2 brave hit HP attack with 120% overflow. That batteries the party by 20% HP damage dealt. His EX ability hits harder now, and becomes an AoE brave and split AoE HP damage attack, while also now having a 60% chance to grant the unique buff Attack Reels to allies for 6 turns, and this grants attack up by 40% and overflow up by 20%. So how many ingots should you give Mr. Blitzball here? Well, at 0-3 is where mine is currently. It's nothing amazing. I just have an excess of books, and it's more just for the raw stats than his EX ability hitting harder, but you can even just keep him at base EX. At 1-3 his standard attack and max brave up, although it's good, is not worth the 1 ingot. 2-3 allows him to start off with all his buffs essentially, including his chance of EX buff since it's fully charged. This is actually quite important since it eliminates the RNG out of his first skill too, so you definitely won't miss out on his important attack and max brave buffs, and the party aura you will have right away as well. So Wakka starting off with his buffs is actually far more important than for some others, but still if you're going to go to 2-3 don't stop here because essentially Wakka does need to be 3-3. This is where he gets his HP Plus, which batteries everyone including himself afterwards, and without an HP Plus he does feel quite lacking and is forced to use skills more often. But most importantly he also gets the unique buff that can give his allies quite a bit more attack as well as overflow, making his overall party support quite amazing. Keep in mind that the Attack Reel's unique buff is just on his allies, assuming that RNG actually gives it to them, and he will just have the Captain's Order buff on himself. So essentially I'd advise a base EX or a book if you have excess of books, or 3-3. No other ingot investment otherwise for Wakka, I don't think. At 3-3 he also gets a great D-Sphere, one that ups the party attack and max brave by 5% when 5 or more buffs are active. Obviously a great choice to put on himself or any unit that grants plenty of self buffs. Just make sure that the support can actually reach 5 since it's not accounting for party-wide buffs, or they have to run with someone else who gives them a buff, which is not exactly ideal. For his C slot, if you want to negate his lack of healing as a support, you can give him Porum or Rosa Sphere, assuming you want to use him a lot more in different situations. Other C-Spheres I'd rather not give to him, outside of like Y'shtolas, which raises Brave by 30% of iBrave after attacking a broken target or breaking a target, or Alphanaos, which can raise party iBrave and attack for 5% after granting a buff. So this just makes his auras even more powerful. For his E slot, don't give him anything that is based on inflicting debuffs because he only has one skill that inflicts one debuff, and some enemies might be immune to blind. Better to give him those E-spheres that are based on breaking or attacking a broken target, or doing a critical hit, like the defense down from Ultimecia, max brave down from Fran, speed down from Titus or Setzer, or attack down from Vincent, etc. For his arts, you definitely want 3 108s without question. Everything is based on attack for him in terms of battery, and his EX has many HP dumps as well. As for his second and third best, it's a bit situational. He wants as much attack as he can get, so debuff attack up is quite superb. But if it's only relying on his own debuff for that boost, his blind is only 2 turns and only comes from his skill 1. So 330 is more safe for most situations. I'd say you can't go wrong with a mix of both, like 108 debuff times 2 plus a 108 330 for when you run with other debuffers. Or you go 2 330s and a 1 debuff if he's the only debuffer and running with batteries, for example. My Wakka is almost perfect from the recent Heretic co-ops, and now I'm even getting more chances at him again with the Diabolos co-ops, so many Wakka arts have been incoming. I've actually tossed a couple 108 debuffs I've rolled away because I generally lean towards keeping 3 max brave arts for the future. So quick how to play Wakka overview. If he's not at least 2-3, start with his S2 and make sure to get at least his attack and max brave buffs up if you have bad luck and don't get all 4. If the one you don't get is his max brave one or attack one especially, you probably would want to use his S2 again to get those. And then if you still have terrible luck and don't get them, then you have to use his S2 again or just restart. But either way, you'd have to use his S2 until you get at least his attack and max brave buffs up. If you get those, or you get all 4, try to weave in some skill 1s to get his EX up quickly as well, so that you have his Captain's Order EX buff up for the party aura. And afterwards, or if you already have a 3-3 Wakka, it's just essentially about maintaining his attack and max brave buffs most importantly. So if he gets debuffed or you're running with other buffers, which is not exactly advised or ideal, you have to use skill 2 to get back his attack and max brave buffs lost, and use skill 1 whenever to help charge his EX or to blind the enemy. So if you're using skill 2 just to battery, it depends on how many uses you have left and how many times you need to refresh his attack and max brave buffs. You might just want to use his HP plus or brave plus to battery rather than a skill. And the lack of HP plus for a non-3-3 Wakka will be quite noticeable, and you kind of want to run him with another battery in this case so that they can ping pong back the battery he gives them, so he doesn't always have to use a skill, but he still would be missing any brave hits on his HP attack. It will also be noticeable in teams or fights that push off his attack and max brave buffs often how much RNG can be annoying in his kit, which leads me to his main con, is that his kit is based on a lot of RNG. 90% per self buff from his S2 sounds like a good chance, but it's 90% 4 times, so it's not that unlikely to be missing a buff now and then. And if that buff happens to be your attack or max brave buff that you're trying to bring back or start off with, it really sucks. For those who've actually used him in his 35 CP days, when he doesn't have his attack or max brave buffs, he's just really low max brave or hitting really crappy. So it's very important that you always have those up. Also, the 60% chance to grant his allies the powerful attack reels buff from his 3-3 means 40% of the time he's giving them jack shit. Also, he has no healing, so you'd have to bring someone who heals along with him generally. And then that person can't be granting too many buffs because he gives himself 5 already, which 4 of them being generic and 2 of those of course being the attack and max brave buffs you don't want to push off. Also, his blind is just a bonus, since it's only a 50% chance the enemy will miss, so it's not very reliable like Kimahri's total blind, for example. But onto his pros, well, his blind is also a pro. If you consider it just a bonus, it can be quite clutch at times, and he technically can apply 20 turns of blinds, so that's a lot of potential misses for enemies. If they miss him, he also counters with a brave hit. It's just 1 brave hit, nothing amazing, but it's something. And when he's not blinding the enemies, he's battering the party with everything else he does, which includes his fast EX. So enemies will find it difficult to break you. When he actually gets all his buffs up, it is quite a lot, and I mean a lot. Like the sheer amount of support he does give the party with everything up is 90% attack, 50% max brave, 50% eye brave, brave regen, 20% overflow, and 20% speed up. So why am I tempted to purple him? Because of exactly that, the amount of potential support he can give the party, which can only be fully unlocked at 3-3, and that's where I need his HP plus as well. Also, his RNG is less of an issue since he will start with all his buffs from 2-3, so you won't have an issue of like starting off with his S2 and missing his attack and max brave buff, and you should be able to refresh them before they run out, assuming you're not getting debuffed or other buffs messing him up. Also, his EX is quite fast enough to the point where he should be able to have pretty good chances to give his allies the EX buff, and once they get it, he does have a couple chances in between those 6 turns to give it to them again and refresh it. And if you have terrible luck and he's just not giving it to them, he's still a pretty decent support even without that buff on them. His skill 2 also doesn't have any brave hits. That can be a pro or a con, but if you like to run him with someone like lightning to leave breaks for, it's actually quite useful to leave the break but battery them as well while doing damage. But the reason I'm not purpling him at the moment is purely because I don't trust my luck. So I do think his kit is fun though, so maybe I do it in the future, but a lot of RNG in his kit makes it could be frustrating at times, but he does give a lot if they're all there. Alright, so on to the main prize of the banner, Aerith. I can quickly go over her base kit. Skill 1, Healing Wind, heals the party HP by 150% attack while battering by the same amount, and grants the party the generic buff of 60% Eye Brave up for 10 turns. Skill 2, Prayer of the Cetra, heals the target while also reviving them if KO'd. It also batteries herself and the target by 200% Eye Brave. Upon use, it grants herself 70% attack for 9 turns and the unique buff Cetra's Favor, which grants her Brave regen based on 40% Eye Brave, defense up by 50%, max Brave up by 20%, and magic attack up by 80%. And this is all just in one unique buff, which is what Wakka needs. Her EX ability, Fury Brand, batteries the party based on 200% attack and grants the unique buff to herself called Ancient Lineage for 3 turns, which grants the party 50% attack up, and overflow limit is increased by 20%. This also grants her Brave++, which is a 2 Brave hit that batteries the party by 120% Eye Brave, and her HP++ that Brave gains by 20% of her max Brave, followed by a 2 Brave hit HP attack with 120% overflow. Her C65 and C70 grants herself 10% attack and 40% Eye Brave regen for the party for 3 turns. The bloom extends this to 5 turns with an additional use, and I always get blooms with additional uses. And actually all that was old news, she had those already. So if you had her EX all this time, then you kind of already were familiar with all of that. But now she gets her EX Plus though. At 0-3, her EX ability's battery can overflow by 120% and finally does an HP dump. It also now heals the party by 50% HP damage dealt, or 20% max HP. At 1-3, she gains a whopping 60% attack and 80% max Brave. At 2-3, her EX buff goes from 3 turns to 6 turns, and adds an additional party aura that allows Brave gain to overflow by 20%. Previously only was Brave stolen increased by 30%. She also starts with all her buffs except for her Eye Brave buff for some reason. At 3-3, it raises the recast speed of her EX, which is always welcomed, and the battery can overflow by 150% now, followed by a 3 Brave hit HP attack with 150% overflow as well. And it also allows her EX buff to grant her Brave+++, which now has 4 Brave hits instead of 2, and HP+++, which now the initial Brave gain overflow can be by 20%, along with an additional Brave hit, making it 3 Brave hits total. So how much should you invest in her? Well, Aerith at 0-3 is just adequate for a budget healer and support unit, especially since she can find the HP dump on her EX with additional healing to boot as if she needed it, but then she's still awkward to play since her EX buff is still only 3 turns, so you're not always getting the full benefits of that, and her damage isn't great either. So if you're familiar with her kit prior, she still has all those flaws, except now she can dump HP on her EX. So I'd have to mostly recommend you take her to 3-3 to fix her kit. You get the all-important 6-turn extension of her EX buff at 2-3, so she always has it up. And at 3-3, you get her HP+++, which can actually allow her to hit pretty hard now, along with her EX hitting harder as well, which is now even up more with the faster recast speed. For her sphere, it grants magic attack 50% up when HP is greater than 80%. While this sphere is obviously quite good for Aerith, she's not actually there for your DPS needs, so I would suggest giving this sphere to your favorite magic DPS, whether it be now or in the future. But of course, if you love her, by all means, it's a great sphere for her, because she does really do well with more attack. So for her A or D slots, if you want to sphere those, boosting her attack is always good for her. And she also wouldn't mind having boosts of Eye Brave or Max Brave either. For her C slot, don't give her ones that require HP is restored to proc. Even though she's a healer, it's better reserved for people with HP regen. For arts, Aerith is unfortunately a cursed art character, meaning there's a larger pool of arts that you have to get the specific arts you want from. Fortunately, she isn't as unforgiving as Sarah, because Sarah requires double cursed, where Aerith you're just mainly aiming for just the 6 stars of charged healing wind boosts, all for the party aura. Even if you roll a nice juicy 108-330, just still equip the charged healing, even if it has trash secondary, because it gives 15% max spray boost to the whole party. And this is per art, so it can go up to 45% max spray boost to the party, as well as 3 additional healing wind uses. Now for your secondary, you do want to aim for 108s ideally, since she uses her HP++ a lot and has quite a bit of battery based on attack. 330s and 170s aren't bad either due to some batteries off of those, as well as Brave regen or higher overflow ceiling. If you do happen to roll a double cursed art though, which is the charged Prayer of the Cetra with the charged healing wind boost, I would keep those, is my suggestion, which you can see that I've done. I rolled 3 of her double curse quite easily while farming Sarah way back during the Willy raid, which is the Black and Will raid, and I cursed that it wasn't even the best for Aerith, and I couldn't get any of these for Sarah, but I got all 3 of them for Aerith like right away. Well, right now her charged Prayer of the Cetra only gives her an extra skill use of skill 2 and nothing else, but the reason I say to keep a double curse if you get it is number 1, any extra skill use can be used to lead to faster EX charges so you can spam skills more freely, and number 2, there's a possibility that they may rework this skill in the future to be stronger, and it might include an HP dump, so having more uses of this skill can actually become the better art in the future. This is just my thinking. So obviously right now 108 charged healing wind boost all is the best. But if you happen to get a double cursed, I'd say hang on to it because it might be more valuable in the future. And it's still pretty darn good now also. Alright, now a summary of how to play Aerith. If she's not at least 2-3, start with her skill 2 to get her 2 most important buffs up. Afterwards, or if you already have her at 2-3, start with her skill 1 to get that missing Eye Brave buff. Then it's just about balancing battery and HP pluses while keeping her buffs up. If she's not at 2-3 and her EX buff is still only 3 turns, consider taking up her speed passive and quick abilities. With 6 turns of that EX buff, you can still do that if you don't want her taking too many turns, but I don't mind because at 3-3 she can still dish out pretty decent damage. It's important to keep in mind that literally everything she does has a high turn rate, and I mean like literally everything, which includes her EX, her Brave+++, and her HP+++. So when playing with her, often hold down the ability you're about to use just to check to see where she would jump to, because it might change your strategy. You could get an instant turn rate in some cases from using an ability, or at least jump ahead of the enemies, so you might want to go ability into EX or a Brave+++ into an HP+++, etc. Alright, for Aerith Pros, she's Aerith, number 1. Max her because she's Aerith. That's what I did. But then she's also the best healer in the game, bar none, who revives at will, so she can carry teams to clears pretty much. She's almost impossible to kill too, since she receives the last stand passive from just her base EX, so she can avoid KO if her health is above 50%, which is especially easy for her to keep. Her EX buff is pretty much the best overflow buff, and gives a nice attack up as well. No other buff has both overflow on Brave Stolen and Brave Gain, and it's also just on herself, so fast units can abuse it, and if you have her at 3-3, it's always going to be up. She brings all the heals and auras you'd want from a support, while only taking up 1 buff slot on her teammates, so this leaves plenty of options for other team members to pair with her. Plus, she isn't exactly locked out of any fights, even magic resist fights, due to all her own battery, so she's technically almost always an option if you want to use her. So onto her cons. Well, even though she can carry a team to clears, completes can be a different story, since of course revives hurt score a lot, and she also still takes up more turns than you'd want since neither of her skills dump HP still. But having her EX dump Brave and her HP+++ at 3-3 has greatly helped in lessening that issue of her turn inefficiency. But you're still gonna have to farm cursed arts for her, at least at the very minimum, the 6-star charged healing wind boost all, so it's still gonna be somewhat of a pain, more than non-cursed units at least. So my final thoughts on Aerith, you'll be much more pleased with her performance at 3-3 than at 0-3, like it's quite drastically different, so if you like her, just go for it. Testing her at 0-3 to see if you want to 3-3 her isn't exactly going to work for her like it does for some others, since her recast ability goes up, her EX buff duration goes up along with her damage, but if you're hesitant on her, you should probably just pass, since there's many supports that can fill her slot in the team, and she's not exactly the top meta of supports by any means, especially with both of her skills not dumping HP. I put her on the same tier level as Porum, both a bit turn inefficient, but help with party survivability while giving great auras. Porum does better at the survivability area, but Aerith does do more damage and also allows for more damage to be done by teammates. Overall, it's a good banner to pull on if you're lacking supports for both Wakka and Aerith, or if you love supports and Aerith like I do, since you do have a good chance at getting 2 above average supports. But if you have plenty of supports already, I'd likely pass on investing on anyone in this banner, because there's many great units upcoming ahead. Alright, so onto the showcase for these two in Diabolos Chaos. So he's a single target 1-wave boss. I feel sorry for him for all the options we have to delay him to Kingdom Come. I've already seen quite a few like lightning solos of this chaos, but I'm gonna run Aerith and Wakka obviously, so I don't have exactly the means to do that. But what we can do is bring someone to make use of that I have wasted plenty of resources on. So let's bring Fran, who's ranged, because first of all, Wakka's ranged, and he is immune to melee, so we can just bring Fran to Imperil for Wakka. And make use of my Fran, so we can just see how this goes. So ranged, obviously Airnail is okay, but Leo is not great for at least Chaos stage, even though he's great for the farming. Wow, everyone has Leo because of farming. Well, we can just go with no friend, should be alright, and see how this goes. Start with S1, get all our Eye Brave up buff. And we'll get our plus abilities up first. $84k off an HP plus. Now let's get our, hopefully get all our buffs up. Okay, perfect. He got all 4. And we're gonna try to shave this down. Get the debuffs down. Well, he might be immune to some of them. We'll see. Okay, magic attack down, he's still not immune to. And we can blind this guy. And this is when I would prefer an HP plus of sorts. And we'll just HP plus with her. Nice blind work in there. Let's shave him down. And instant turn rates. Just Brave Plus for now. EX should be up. Huh. Let's get that blind back on. Damn, everyone boosted, doing a lot of damage. Ooh, 99k. Now with the Imperil, hitting for weakness. Beautiful. Let me use HP plus. So much overflow. He's always blinded. He's still blinded right now. Let's go ahead and battery everyone. He got all 4 buffs that time too. Way to go, Wakka. And let's go ahead and battery him and refresh our buff a bit. Get that instant EX. Look at that Wakka, 71k. I just need to dump it. No HP plus, sadly. The miss and the counter and the EX. So much damage. So much damage, my god. Let's go ahead and get our Eye Brave ups again. And our EX will be up after this, but let's just go ahead and blind him as well. Look at her, so beautiful and cute. Gotta love her. And we'll just HP plus after all this. Brave. I'm getting pretty good RNG here. It's only 50% to miss. I am not getting that EX buff that comes with this 3-3 sadly. It's HP plus here. Which is why I kinda wanted 3-3 him. Ooh, this is not the greatest launch, but let's apply his debuffs. Still has his blind on. Let's go ahead and battery everyone though. Counter. And we just HP attack here. And go EX here. Does his recast ability do brave hits? His recast ability increases brave group, so it does brave attack. Okay, so I will go ahead and battery here. Look at all that damage. They're missing. Just dump it. There's no need for HP plus, I guess, when you're running with so much battery. Here at the battery machine. And with the heals on the EX is nice too. Let's blind him again. He's just gonna live with a blind all his life. Poor guy. And my EX will be up after this. I'm gonna have to refresh my generic buffs after this on Wakka. And we're running out of the Prayer of Citra buff. Let's go ahead and battery Fran. And straight into EX. Now this EX is gonna do a lot of damage. Well, 150k. 160k, my bad. With the beautiful misses, with the people who didn't have Brave. Perfect. Oh, he only got 3 of them. What's the one that just dropped off? Oh shit, the attack dropped off. Okay, that sucks. Let's go ahead and get my attack buff on. Man, stupid RNG. HP plus. Get his debuff back on. I kinda wanna blind him, but it's okay. Yep, battery everybody. Get the buff back up. Oh, nice. Nice battery. That was excellent. Excellent use of battery. Oh, just like that, we're filled up on Brave again. Too bad. And you're gonna blind you. And we'll just battery and EX. With the misses and the counter. Perfect. And we'll go ahead and get our EX up. He's still blinded. I can just dump this for my EX up. Oh, I did not notice that launch. Otherwise I would have summoned. Let's get that debuff off. Man, max damage. What do we even need summon for if everything is going to 99k anyways? So we'll get my EX up. I'm gonna be more liberal with skills when he's close to lower health. And what buff is this? Citrus Favor, so let's heal him up and battery him. Beautiful. What's this buff he got on? Power of Darkness. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and prepare for summon. He's kind of melting. What's the turn count on this? 100. Wow. Alright. Let's blind you. Yep. Sorry. And we can just go into EX. Let's just battery everyone to the wazoo. Got all my buffs. This is too much. Too much brave. I don't even know what to do with it. I need multiple dumps. Too much brave. Just go with the HP plus then. He's still blinded, so let's go ahead and just battery. Oh wait, this might be the gravity attack, right? Yeah, it's the gravity attack. Woohoo, sapped Ooh. I'm just gonna have to shave him. Last stretch. Blind. Hitting 9-9s like this ain't no thing. I'm gonna lose my Cetra buff. It's okay. Might as well battery her. My last skill 2. It's a miss. And we're gonna battery Wakka for his EX. Get my buff back up. It's a big brave dump. So much battery. You can't kill me. It's too bad. Look at that. Look at that luck. Look at that luck to the right person. She is unkillable, and just like that, she has full health again. And you're blinded again. The power of Aerith. No one can kill her except for Roth. Oh man. That's gonna be pretty insane in the remake. Spoilers. Well, we don't exactly know if she will die in the remake, do we? And this person is dead. Can we get him out of break? I don't think this is not gonna get him out of break. It's just gonna be more dangerous. You don't die. Oh, it's just grab Aja. No big deal. And you are dead. Let's go ahead to HP plus. Aerith gets the kill. Wow, he just does pretty boring attacks, actually. Pretty simple fight when everyone's boosted. And that is that. You can see it's still a pretty high turn count that we got, even though we're dealing a lot of damage. Aerith does take quite a bit of turn counts, and my Wakka at 038 has a sad little boy with no HP plus and no EX buff for his allies. But Fran definitely doing work like usual. And you saw my arts in the video, but these are Fran's arts. I actually haven't done her 7th board yet. But he's good to run DBF attack up when he's running with someone like Fran, obviously. And I like her extra skills more than at 330, especially when we're capping at 99k already. Alright, well, that's gonna be it for the video. I hope you learned something about Aerith and Wakka, and I'll see you next time. Bye.